Hello everyone and welcome back to Strike Zone with St. Paul Saints Manager George Tsamis. Strike Zone is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the St. Paul Manager questions about the Saints, baseball or sports in general, or just seek George's wisdom about life events. In this week's episode, George talks with us about recent signings by the club. He shares his baseball insights with us, and he talks a little bit about how his daughter's softball team is doing down in Florida. So let's get right to Strike Zone.
So let's welcome back Manager George Tsamis this week. George, let's first of all begin with the busy week of team updates you have for us.
Yeah, it has been busy, and I know over the past few weeks it's been slow, and I didn't have any news, but obviously we've had some news this week, and we made a trade from an outfitter, Michael Burgess from Somerset. Yeah, he was their cleanup hitter, fourth and fifth hitter for them during the season, and he came up big for them in the playoffs, and he's a big left-handed bat. And Kramer Snead played with him a little bit, too, towards the end of the year last year after our season was over, and he said some nice things about him. He said he'd be a real good player, but big left-handed bat with a real good arm in the outfield, and we think he'll fit right into our new stadium. Mike Gilmartin, he's been a solid shortstop for the last 2 years in Lincoln, and he knows he'll be coming in to compete for a job. He'll try to win a job. He'll try to win the shortstop job. He can play second and third, but he will come in and try to win a job. He's just been a steady shortstop, so we'll just see how things play out with that. Kevin Cravey, we released him. He had an injury, and he's going to miss the season, so it's too bad because I thought he could be a pretty good reliever. But again, yeah, he's going to miss the year. He has to have Tommy John surgery, so it's just a little bad luck for him. And then we signed Fred Harper, who was the son of former Twins catcher Brian Harper, who's been a big productive bat over the years. He's been around for a while, and another big left-handed bat, and we feel he'll be good for us in the middle of the order.
Both Burgess and Harper have been 20-plus home run guys, so I figured that this is your 4 and 5 guys you're kind of looking at?
Yeah, on paper, as of today, yeah, it looks that way, but, you still don't know. There's still spring training to go here, and, the next 3 weeks and 4 weeks with all the releases are going to happen. You just don't know how things are going to play out, and like I said, on paper, maybe as of today, that's the way it work out, and but we'll just see. We'll just see what happens here with all the releases over the next few weeks.
Well, those look like really good signings by you for sure.
Well, hopefully they work out, and like I said, they've had some solid seasons, and hopefully they can continue.
Well, let us head to our fan questions this week, and we'll first of all begin with Anthony from Burnsville, who asked, have you seen how any Saints from last year are doing in spring training so far?
No, I believe the spring training just started in the past week, and I'm not even sure if they've played any games yet, so I just think it's a little bit early. I don't have any reports yet, but hopefully in the next, couple of weeks, we'll have some info on how our guys are doing.
I did hear actually from Mike Zuzalik, who told me that he threw his first bullpen session for the Orioles organization and went really well, so he was pretty happy about that.
He said, well, you know what, you don't see, in the 92, 93, 94 with a good curveball, you don't see it too often, so hopefully he can impress them, and it'd be really nice if he can break camp, with a double-A team.
Jeremy from Lionel Lakes would like to know, he says, George, I hear you talk a lot about battling with other teams to sign players. What does this process look like for you, and how do you compete with other teams for a guy?
It's a tough process. Usually when the releases happen, Major League Baseball sends the releases to all the independent teams or to the league office, and the league office sends them out to everybody, and it's a lengthy process, and if you do it right, it's very time-consuming. You look up every single player, and when there's times players might get 15 calls from independent teams, within hours of getting released, and it's just two ways to look at it. They're devastated they got released and don't want to hear from anybody, but on the other end, well, they're devastated they got released, but they know somebody else wants them. So, but when you're going after those players, you got to sell your place, and it's like college recruiting. You're trying to get the best players you can, and try to be as truthful as you can with the guys and tell them, what you need, what positions you have open and what you expect from them, and but sure everybody else is doing it and tell them how great their place is, and so you just do the best you can to get the best guys in there.
I think it might be interesting for fans who might not be aware of this. Last year, before the season began, you showed me literally a book of all of the people that were released. This isn't a simple matter of you getting a 1 or 2 page report. This is quite an extensive report.
Yeah, especially if you do it right too. You'd be surprised at how long it takes to look up every single player that gets released. You look them up, and the guy you may have interest in, you mark them down, and it takes a long time. And then again, if you like a guy, then you reach out to him, you call him, or you find out, who his agent is, and then you go back and forth. It takes a long time, and you're on the phone a lot, and again, you're trying to get reports from them, and from organizations or from scouts or from ex-players that have played with the guy, and you hope the reports are accurate. Some are, and some are not. The tough things when you hear, hey, you got to get this guy, he does 92 miles per hour, and then he gets there and he goes 85, and that's stuff that's tough to take. Those reports that aren't accurate.
Is there a process when you're looking over these reports? Do you begin at a certain level? Do you begin with a certain organization? Because I would think, you're looking at literally thousands of names that are released out here. How do you start to narrow that down to even begin with?
Whenever the releases come through, if one day let's say one organization releases guys, the second they come through, you look them up because other teams are going to pounce on the guy. So it's. You can't, the releases come through and you can't take a couple of days to look them up because they may be signed, within hours. And it's funny. Some guys do it right, and some guys want to sign right away, and some guys, they want to wait weeks, to sign. I still remember the time, it was a few years ago when Robert Coe got released, and, this is what kind of a great kid Robert Coe is. When he got released, he called me right away, from the locker room, I think, and I got a contract out to him, 15 minutes later, and he sent it back to me 2 minutes later, and you wish they can all go as smooth as that, but it usually doesn't go that way, because everybody wants the best offer, and they want to hear other offers, and so it's you better be on the ball, and you better be ready to go when these releases come through.
We have a couple of questions from Ian from St. Paul. The first one is, do you find managing an independent baseball more satisfying for you personally than in the minors or of affiliate ball?
Yeah, I personally do. I know a lot of people would like to be managing organizations, but I love what I do, and I love being here, and I love putting the team together. So I would, I'm very happy, being the manager for the St. Paul Saints and getting the players for them.
Ian also asks, one thing he doesn't understand is that with your skills in drawing talent to the Saints and your managing skills, why you're not a coach, manager, or scout in affiliate ball. Is that a goal of yours? I'm pretty happy where I am, and again, it's a great thing to being able to put the team together, and again, obviously, being in St. Paul, it's been there for a long time, and I work for great people, and again, when you're in the nicest stadium that you're ever going to see, we're pretty lucky to be there. Absolutely.
So I will be there as long as they let me be there.
Which will be decades. Tim.
That would be nice. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. You win some games, and you get to stay longer. You'll
be managing as long as Hal Lanier, no doubt about it.
Okay, well, let's do that. And look at Doug Simonic-Fargo's been there forever. He's had a great career, and I would love to have a long career like that and be able to do it for 20-plus years.
That would be great. Tim from Chanhassen would like to know, when is the tryouts for the Saints, and what does a person do if he is interested, and what kinds of things are you looking for?
Yeah, I believe it's Thursday, May 5th. It'll be at the stadium, and every year we have a bunch of people come out, and there's a lot of times where the day of the tryout, we haven't signed anybody just because maybe we have most of our team together, and we may have a need here and there, but you just look for the best available talent, and and throughout the season, when guys go down, injuries, or guys maybe struggle to get released, there's times we go to those releases, and go to those the players that come to the tryout, and you hope you find a good one, and there's times you do and times you don't. So it's just if you don't get time the day of the tryout, that doesn't mean you won't get a call later in the season.
There was a young man who last year came to that you had play for you in the exhibition game against the Japanese team last year.
Yes, and and he came back and got another look, but he could play. He could have played for us, but it just at the time, we were pretty good in the outfield, and it just wasn't a need at the time.
Yeah, you had quite an outfield last year, so that was tough to crack for sure. Next comes Pamela from Richfield, who'd like to know, I see that the major leagues honor mothers each year. Does the American Association do that?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure, but I don't believe so.
I think Mother's Day happens before the season begins. Is that right? Because like the 14th or something?
Yeah, I think it's like the week before, so we miss it.
Shirley from Maple would like to know, who are pitchers you like to watch just because of how smart they are on the mound? Maybe a guy who doesn't have sensational stuff, but who is really smart in the way he pitches.
Now you see so many guys throwing those 95-mile-per-hour fastballs, and I would just say, the one guy that came to mind overall, Greg Maddox was the guy to watch, and what was he, 88, 89, and just ball moving all over the place, and just knew what he was doing, and pitching inside, outside, and I don't know if I've seen a guy with a two-seamer that ran as much as his. He was a guy to watch, and just not an overpowering guy that, movement and hitting your spots is the way to go, and he was maybe the best at it.
We have two questions from Chris from Bloomington. The first one is, what do you think are the keys to being a good base stealer, and is it more than just about speed?
It's definitely more than just about speed. You got to get a good jump, and getting a good jump is watching the pitcher, knowing his timing. Sometimes the pitchers, they come set for 1 second, go every time. You just have to get to study the pitchers, and so a lot of times you steal it off the pitcher. If the pitcher's slow to the plate, there's a pretty good chance you're going to steal second. It doesn't really matter, how strong the catcher's arm is in certain spots. If the pitcher's slow to the plate, you should be able to get a good jump and steal the base. And those good base runners, too, you see it. You watch games on TV, and you see those guys on first leading off, peeking in at the sign. So you see a catcher put down a breaking ball or a changeup. Obviously, those are good pitches to run on as well.
Chris would also like to know how you feel about the head-first slide.
I'm good with it. They get you there faster, and I say go for it. And and people say, okay, well, you can get hurt. Well, you know what? You can get hurt doing anything. So it's just to get you there faster, and a lot of guys do it. And Ricky Henderson do it all the time, and he was like the best guy of all time. So head first slides are good. And
he didn't spend a lot of time on the DL either. So
Yeah, it's if you just hope it doesn't happen, but you can get hurt a lot of different ways.
Heading into football, Mitch from Brainerd starts with Peyton Manning's retirement speech was really something special. Where do you rate him in all-time quarterbacks?
Yeah, I missed the retirement speech, and I'm guessing it was a pretty big day in the NFL. He's been around for a long time, been a great guy, a great quarterback, and it was fun to watch, and it's just put on a lot of clinics out there the way he played. But I would think he would be a top 5, top 10 quarterback of all time. And good for him that he got a second Super Bowl as well, too, because I know that was something that bugged him, and you can see it, and that's the right attitude. It should have bugged him. So he got 2 Super Bowls, and I would say a top 5, top 10 quarterback of all time.
Do you rate Brady as the top of all time?
Brady, yeah, he's not mine. Everybody's guy to dislike. He's up there. Yeah, he's him in Montana, and there have been so many good ones, though, and Favre and Elway and Marino. There's been so many good ones, but yeah, we're just gonna go with Brady. Yeah, to me, I love the way he plays.
Next comes from Neil from Minneapolis, who says, of the quarterbacks that had off years this past season, who do you see really rebounding into form next year?
I haven't really thought about that one. The one guy this was maybe a surprise, and I think people can would agree with it. Aaron Rodgers, I know he had a good year, but he didn't have his typical Aaron Rodgers year. So, if you want to, I guess, be silly until he's going to bounce back, I think I always thought he was the greatest guy out there, but I guess he just had, for him, a down year. So I expect him to just bounce back and be right up there as top one or two quarterbacks in the league.
Speaking of Tom Brady, Ted asks, from the way ESPN talks, it looks like the appellate court thought Brady should have been suspended. Isn't this whole thing getting ridiculous?
It is ridiculous, and it's pretty silly, and I don't even pay attention to it. So when I saw the question, it's like, I didn't even know they were still talking about it. It's really, really not interested in it. It's just, let's just move on and let's play.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. It's deflated footballs. Wow.
You know what? Did they change the football to halftime in that game, and did they score 28 points?
Yeah.
Instead of about 28 nothing in the second half. So whatever. They were the better team.
Gil from Plymouth asks, he says, toss up, George. If you were Brock Osweiler, who would you sign with, Houston or Denver?
Well, you would think the right thing would be Denver, but you know how it works. The money talks, and just wherever you get the best deal is where he's going to go. But being in Denver, them giving him a chance and winning the Super Bowl, having a real good team with a real good defense, you would think Denver would be the right choice, but it's going to come down to the money.
Lewis from Milwaukee wonders from you, where do you think would be a good fit for Robert Griffin for next year?
There were so many quarterback issues last year. You would think that somebody would give him a shot, and I just remember a few years ago we thought he was the most exciting player in the league. He was just something to watch, and then obviously he got hurt and gone backwards a little bit. But you would think somebody, Houston, I don't know. You would think you'd get a chance with somebody and you'd be successful because he wasn't an exciting guy to watch.
Yeah, I think he really never got a shot over the last few years to regain his spot. So. Next comes Craig from Lakeville, who says, George, I know you have talked on the show that you don't really watch much sports out of baseball and football, but you have to love March Madness.
Yeah, I guess if you're a basketball fan, that's what I hear, that people love March Madness. But not me, though. I couldn't name one college basketball player or anything. I'm just not interested. But I hear everybody talk about how great March Madness is, and once in a while when you're going through the channels during March Madness and you see the excitement of the games, yeah, you see it. But it's great for the people that love college basketball.
Well, again, and this is the time of the year that you're trying to build a team, so maybe you don't have as much time to be watching basketball. And
that's exactly it, too. It's exactly, I don't have time to, I don't even know if I'll have time to watch my TV shows. It's too busy for me.
So you're missing the Blacklist during this time? Is that what we're understanding?
Well, the Blacklist is on break until April 7th, so okay. I have a little time to, I think they did that on purpose. I think they gave me some time to put the team together. So I can come back April 7th.
That was nice of them. Excellent. Our last question comes from Jen from St. Paul, who'd like to know, you talked about seeing your daughter playing softball in Florida. How is her team doing?
Yeah, they just started. They're off to a slow start. They're 1-3, and they won the first game, but then lost 3 in a row. And they've been throwing the ball around, making some errors, and my daughter included. But a long way to go, and still, 5 more days down here, and hopefully they can improve.
Do they play 2 games every day for that tournament?
Yeah, they have a couple of days off. But yeah, it's the 2 days, and you know what? When you're throwing the ball around and making a lot of errors, those days get longer and they're tough to watch. But hopefully they can turn it around and get on the right track.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us this week, George.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you later.
We'd like to thank Manager George Tsamis for joining us on Strike Zone this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the St. Paul Saints skipper, please send them to us at AskGeorge@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's AskGeorge@minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions to us by Sunday evening so we can give the skipper a little time to review them before we record the show on Monday. I want to thank you for joining us again this week. I'm Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we'll look for you next week on Strike Zone.